Jason and I were comparing notes leading into this interview, and Jason, of course, is a vocalist himself, and he more than most people, I think, can totally appreciate how amazing your voice still sounds after all these years.
Oh man, you know, kind of semi-joking, but not. I've learned how to make it work and kind of how to fake it in some way, you know. And that's what I mean by that isn't a track thing. Nothing to do with tracks. I mean,
Of course
you
not.
know, I don't sound anything like I used to sound as a singer. My voice has changed dramatically.
That's maturity, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the reason why, or I hope the reason why it works for me is because my voice was so high back then, like almost too high, you know, just way up there. A lot of people mistook me as a girl, a singer, often enough. And I think now that it's dropped down a little bit, gotten a little grittier, a little more depth to it, it works. And I'm able to make it work, you know?
Yeah.
You have great tone, and I think that your tone graduated. It's not taking away from the story of progress that you just told, but I too, when I was 18, someone was stepping on my balls. That's just what it sounded like. And I liked that because I was trying to do that. I mean, all of my favorite singers, you know, sang above the break, and they just sang, the whole record would be above, sang way up in the stratosphere.
Yep.
And so that's what I wanted to do, to completely untrained. And now I like my voice better because I feel like I have tone and depth and grit, and I think it's maturity. Did you have any training early on, or did you go in and try to fix some things in the middle of it all?
You know, the only training I ever had, the first training I had was with myself. So I didn't like where my voice was back when I was, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. It hadn't developed yet, obviously physically and naturally, but also just stylistically. So I heard Priest for the first time. I heard Diamonds and Rust live from Unleashed in the East, and that changed me as a singer. I went home. It made me say, it was a wake-up call. Like, okay, get serious about your voice. So I started working on my range, my vibrato, and my upper register. And I kind of jumped leaps and bounds, over a year period. And when we started performing, people were like, is that the same singer? Had a completely different voice. And as years have gone by, we took lessons from Elizabeth Sabine out in L.A.
Okay.
She was an infamous vocal coach, amazing person, amazing singer. And, I took a few lessons from her. I grew up in a musical family. My parents were singers. So I grew up around singing and how to sing and how to harmonize and locking in and all that stuff. But in terms of like training, do I go every week and train, or every month and train, or even every year and train? No. I as a guitar player, the same applies. I'm not a trained guitarist. I'm an ear player and an ear singer, pretty much.
Yeah. I guess, to be clear, I was using the word trained very loosely. But yeah, I think that learning from yourself by recording yourself and listening back and going, that's not right yet, is the best sort of training, I guess. To be clear, when was the first time you ever heard your voice back on tape, as it were?
Oh gosh, I think I heard some live audio way back in the day. We would record on a cheap stereo cassette recorder. But when I heard the studio stuff, we started doing demos. We'd go work for a month and then have enough money, pull it together, and go do a demo. And this went on for years. First time I heard myself on a demo is when I thought, okay, there's my voice. That's my voice. And, parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't like.
Yeah.
Parts of it to this day I like, parts I don't like. I'm a very dramatic singer.
Yeah.
So I am very almost more theatrical and operatic, very, and
Yeah.
some people don't like that. Some people don't like that at all. It annoys them. And, I grew up on guys like Dio and Halford and
Yeah.
Bruce Dickinson and
Yep.
those types of singers.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that explains everything, all the stuff you fell in love with as far as singing goes in hard rock and metal. You're applying, and you're applying very well. And so, yeah, I understand. You're also singing what the song is asking you to sing, and that's not always the case with. Well, you go through those phases where what kind of song am I writing right now, and what kind of vocal approach do I take to this? And I feel you figured that out early on. It was probably because you guys were recording early. The old boombox rehearsal tapes. It's the first time I heard myself, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. So, it's constant learning. First time I saw you live, I had heard your records, of course, was in, it would have been February 20th, 1985 at the Austin Opera House. My band Watchtower opened for you guys.
Okay.
And you and Robert came in our dressing room after our set, and you guys were so nice to us. You guys were so complimentary to us, and that was my first experience. You and your brother were my band Watchtower's first experience that someone that had any clout, walked in and went. When the headliner walks into the opening band's dressing room and goes, "Holy shit, where'd you guys learn how to do that? Whoa!" And you guys were genuine about it, and we were like, "Wow, that's." I thought, I'll speak for myself. That was my introduction to you. Since then, I've run into you elevators. I married a couple in Houston, and you were the musical act. I don't know if you remember any of that, but yeah,
I sure do. Yeah,
yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah, much respect.
Well, man, that's very kind of you, buddy. And, the thing is about me, speaking for myself, I can't speak for all musicians out there. But at the end of the day, we're like anybody else, we have our issues, we have bad days, we have good days. Sometimes people catch us on a bad day. And that's the first impression. And that's the one thing they remember and recall. Well, I met him and he didn't have much to say and he was a jerk and I hate him and I'll never listen to him.
Wow.
But this is the stuff we forget about, that musicians are just people and with everyday issues. But I always try, my point is I always try to apply the golden rule, with everybody. We're all created the same. We're all created equal in God's eyes. We're all God's creations. And, I take that into account every time I meet somebody. And I want to leave a great impression and do so sincerely. So I've met a lot of people, I won't name names, but a lot of people we've opened for that weren't so nice. And it left an impression. Right. Not a good one. But yeah, you just be nice. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot less energy to be nice than it does to be mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.